Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with it another fascinating event in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC. That's iRacing and powered by the sim racing hardware manufacturer CONSPIT. We're here today to continue the story of our top split broadcast schedule in the 2025 Season 3 campaign. It is week 10 and with it we conclude our American triple header by making our way to the countryside classic that is the Elkhart Lake Circuit in the US state of Wisconsin. It is none other than Road America, a circuit that has withstood the test of time when it comes to its layout. Having opened in 1955 for the best part of 69 years, it has remained exactly as it opened. 4.04 miles of brilliant asphalt, many a straight, plenty of condensed corner sequences, and through it all, an interesting question. Do you maximise your performance on the straights, or do you aim to set your performance up for the corners, or do you go somewhere in between? And answering that question is going to be key to victory for our drivers today, as they look to do battle in another brilliant night of racing. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this broadcast live from Circuit Side, and you're tuning in via YouTube at the moment, at youtube.com, and search for TX1 or Paul Walsh on there, and you can be tuning in right now and enjoying all the racing as it unfolds today. And don't be shy, feel free to say hi as we do say hello there to Mac Racing, who does say hello there as well, and I hope you're doing well, Mac. But as we get ready to go in the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain Split, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action as it unfolds over the course of these top split broadcasts this season. And our schedule for tonight in our regular 1945 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT or Universal Coordinate Time slot on this Wednesday the 20th of August. Well, we'll be going racing in just under 4 minutes time with our 12-lap feature race, and indeed what a race it is going to be. It's a boiling hot circuit, 41 degrees centigrade track temperature, 24 degrees centigrade ambient temperature with plenty of cloud, and well, let's get to it ladies and gentlemen as we got a brilliant round ahead. As we can see, we're nearing the end then of our 2025 Season 3 campaign. Last time out, we had our second race in the US of A, and that was at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. And well, the stories there, well, there were many of them, but the big stories at the very front of the field is in our strength of field there of 3,913. It was Gunnar Tastellan on his debut in the Top Split Broadcast Series, who took pole position by a staggering margin of almost 2 tenths and just ran off into the distance. Whereas Tobias Olsson and Corey Lazarus, meanwhile, had a brilliantly held on race all the way to the very end in their battle for second, but it was Olsen who took the second place spot of Lazarus right at the close, and Lazarus just not quite have enough to get ahead. But will he be able to do so today as both drivers will be back on the grid again and looking to exchange blows, no doubt about it. But after today, we'll be making our way to Portugal for the Algarve International Circuit, and then we'll bring the curtain down at the Hungaroring in week 12 of 12. But talking a bit more about our circuit for today then, well, of course, it is the full course of the Road America Circuit, and located in the Sheboygan County of the US state of Wisconsin. Well, this circuit is 14 corners in its length, and a rather lengthy circuit as that. And a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the fantastic track mats that come with it. And the unique feature about this circuit is the fact that it is one of those circuits that is made for spectators, with the fact that a spectator can pretty much sit anywhere on the outside of the circuit and have access to many a corner from their viewing position. Indeed, a very spectator-friendly circuit, but also a very race-friendly circuit here. In fact, you have plenty of corner variety, with the corners predominantly being at medium to low speed until you get to the back end of the lap from really turn 9 onwards with the carousel and the kink, the infamous fast right-hander of the kink, which can upset even the coolest of drivers as they roar the way through there at top speed all the way towards Canada Corner. And it's that variety that makes Road America an absolute titan of international motorsport, and why the likes of Porsche Cup Series and also IMSA return to it year in, year out. But as we get ready to go racing, a quick reminder of our rules, because we can't go racing without them. Setup-wise, open setups are the theme, where all the drivers come here with the setups they've chosen. Race-wise, the grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing. The race shall commence via a standing start, and we will see that drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 more instant points, and should they get 25, they will be disqualified. But hopefully, we won't see that. But making our way back to circuit then, and well, right now in this closed qualifying session, all drivers out there on their second flying laps for the most part, and today we do have a strength of field of 4,924, our third highest for this season. Week number 8, we had a top split of 5,007, and of course all the way back at our season opener at Spa-Francorchamps in week number 1, we had our highest of 5,644, but we've got some very healthy grids this season, it must be said. Indeed, these Porsche Cup machines proving absolutely brilliant brilliant for racing action, and time again, our drivers have absolutely surprised us. We've got a plenty irregular face here today, Corey Lazarus being one of them, and of course his big rival being Tobias Olsen, who's yet to get a valid lap on the board, and Olsen will be hoping to deliver something on his second flying lap, because if not, he'll be starting from the very back of the field. And with a field of the best part of 22 drivers, well, you can imagine that is going to be an absolutely eye-watering task for him, albeit we'd love to see it. I think he'd like to qualify a bit further up the order rather than start at the bottom end of the top 20. But at the very front right now, as he makes about the final quarter, but that was a very big run wide there. Well, it's the man who proves himself to be Mr. Consistent, even though he may not be the fastest. But right now, he's looking to be the fastest in this qualifying session. It is Philip Hammer who comes charging across the timeline with second flying lap there. Well, that lap invalidated by his run wide at the final quarter, but it was looking to be a match for his previous best at 207.829, being the lap he gets on the board in the end. Corey Lazarus leaps up to second place down at 207.928, only 1/10 of Jules Bounce. Goodness me, now that is a name I have not heard in 3 years. And well, a little bit of nostalgia here as he takes pole position provisionally on a 207.653. He was always a very fast driver, and he was a driver on the grid of the first ever series I ever covered, and that would have been the Next Gen Racing GT3 Championship. And the first ever series I covered on iRacing, I should say. So therefore, this actually feels quite special for me to see Jules Bounce here. And indeed, I'll have to get in touch with him a little bit later to say it's great to see him on the grid again, because it's been so long since I've seen him race, but he is a very capable driver, and what a lap from him. Indeed, the Benelux region driver, very much a lover of the Porsche 992 Cup car, and well, that's demonstrated in what he's been able to put together in the number 17 machine. But as we do see a newcomer, much like Jules Bounce, a newcomer today, we also see newcomer here of Bruno Nascimento make his way around. Well, he's looking on course for 12th place here because he's on a cool-down lap. He's got no more laps available. Christian Carlson has also completed his qualifying session just behind him on the timing tower. But here comes Leandro Lazendorf, and as he heads towards the line, currently 19th, last of the valid lap time qualifiers, he moves to 15th. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we head to the grid because qualifying is complete, and let's see how they all line up for our one and only race. So as they all make the way onto the grid, this is how our drivers line up for the Week 10 Strength for Field Racing, the 2025 Season 3 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT campaign. And it is Jules Bounce, on his debut, takes pole position there, the Belgian driver, ahead of pole promotion esports' Philip Hammer by almost 2/10. On row number 2, we'll have Tobias Olsen for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, ahead of Corey Lazarus. And indeed, they've once again found each other on that second row of the grid. That's going to be fascinating to watch. Behind them, the Slovakian driver of none other than Gabriel Zisk starts in 5th, ahead of Chinese debutant of Kushen Huang. Well, then we have on row number 4, it's going to be Max Enstrom, a regular of these grids for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, ahead of his teammate there of none other than Elias Finoli. Then coming from the Swedes, it's more Swedish drivers here because we have Lucas Martinez being joined by Liam Kalinski, who starts 9th, and Martinez will start 10th there for start of MC. And then we come on to row number 6, and it is going to be the combination pair of Paul Geoffroy from the France and the Brazilian driver there of Bruno Nascimento, who complete your top 12. On row number 7, we'll have Christian Carlson, and he'll be in the company there of newcomer Zach Haidt. The Swiss driver being followed up by the Brazilian of Leandro Lazendorf and the Polish driver there of Tomasz Rostek. Then we have on row number 9, it's going to be the combination of Mohamed Abdouni, and with him is going to be the American driver there on home soil looking to go for glory. That'll be Anthony Corsaro. Then we have on row number 10 to complete your top 20, he returns to the grid once again, Carl McGuinness, and I wonder if he's related to John McGuinness. I'll have to ask him that one day, but he'll be in the company of Nicholas Stanev. Behind the Bulgarian driver who starts 20th, in 21st, it's going to be John Bailiff for the Win It or Bin It Racing team. And then last but not least, Ibai Alonso starts 22nd of our 22 entrants. But the Asturial Esports driver completes our running order, and our grid is almost set, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it is set. It's time for the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for 12 laps of racing here at Road Americas. Jules Bounce gets a good start, but Philip Hammer, meanwhile, gets the better launch by comparison. Tobias Olsen gets the best of the top 3, and as they make their way down towards turn number 1, where everyone immediately fanning left, right, and centre. They all look to bob and weave into position. And Hammer, they're touching the grass, and by touching it, he has. What happened to him at Okayama happened once again. For Philip Hammer, it all goes wrong before he's even cleared turn number 1. But the rest of the field leaves him behind as they make the way down. What will we see further down? Well, we do see Lucas Martinez here, side by side battling with Liam Liam Kalinske, and Kalinske holding that inside line as they power the way out to turn number 3, and now on the long run down towards turn number 6 they go. But still side by side there, Kalinske and Martinez not giving each other any breathing room, and Paul Jeffrey trying to make it 3 wide here. Well, that's going to be very tricky under cold brakes for the first time, and as they come down in towards turn number 6, 2 by 2 they come. Christian Carlson there a little bit further back watching. That's a big lock up there, going straight on. Here's Liam Kalinske, and he goes off into the weeds, but he'll come back. I'm sure he's just made it a little bit too deep. This is all gone wrong a bit further back, and as the car rejoins, that's going to get even worse there for Liam Kalinske and Zach Haidt, who both had drama at turn number 6 separately, and they come together there to make it a domino effect. We'll definitely have to get a replay of what happened there, but as we've got a yellow flag for Haidt, and we've also got a toe to the pit lane for Kalinske, I think their races are going to be out before they've completed the single lap. But from all the drama we saw further down the order, or me at the front of the order, things are calming down at least for a brief moment. And I say at least for a brief moment because Max Enstrom here, well, right now the smiling Swedish driver is trying to make some progress as he attacks the back of Christian Carlson coming on the round, but exiting the carousel and onwards towards the kink. He's going to have to settle in, as behind we see it Thomas Rostek, meanwhile, all over the back of Antti Corsaro, as Corsaro here having to go a little bit defensive coming into the kink, albeit doesn't have to change his line initially, but what he does have to do is keep an eye on the fact that he does have a very fast driver behind him, and if he doesn't get a good exit, he's definitely going to have to pull over to the right hand side if he wants to hold the position into Canada Corner. But he doesn't have to go defensive there because both drivers equalise each other. Philip Hammer, meanwhile, here's your number 1 driver. He didn't quite take pole position, and indeed after that opening corner instant, he dropped all the way down, but he's already back on the charge. He's made his way into 17th place, and very shortly trying to move into 16th versus John Bailiff, who are right in front of him there in the very colourful machine, just hold his racing lines as they come towards the end of lap number 1. But after 1 lap turned, another 11 to go, it's Jules Bouts who leads by 7 tenths over Tobias Olsen. In third is Corey Lazarus, that's your top 3. Then half a second behind, it's Gabriel Zisk in 4th, and behind the Slovakian driver we do have there, Kushen Hang, who stays in 5th. Then in 6th is going to be Elias Finoli ahead of Lucas Martinez, with Paul Joffreu in 8th place ahead of Christian Carlson, and Max Enstrom completes your top 10, albeit Carlson and Enstrom there getting close. A poor run coming out of turn number 1 there for Carlson is going to cost him the place because Max Enstrom dives up the inside there. Classic move in towards turn number 3, but the problem is now the fact that he's going to have Carlson and also Nascimento both trying to get close here as they power their way onwards. We look back for the rear of Max Enstrom's car here, and right now, well, the throttle is absolutely planted, but so it is for Christian Carlson as they try to squeeze as they come down in towards the braking zone for turn number 6. 2 wide they come under braking, and it is going to be there Christian Carlson who's just beaten to the apex, or is he? No, because it's going to be a mistake there from Enstrom. Goes deep, as we do see there the car Bruno Nascimento also trying to get involved, and well, Enstrom in the end does get clear, and in fact with both drivers going deep, it's Bruno Nascimento who takes 2 for 1 as he comes out to turn number 6 and 7, and well, the Brazilian driver, they're doing a fantastic job to move up into 9th place, just seeing that both of his rivals outbroke each other into the corner and completely missed the apex as a result. But whilst all this has been happening, we've had a change of places just a little bit in front of them, as Paul Jeffrey has passed Elias Finoli, but he's got Lucas Martinez right in front of him as well, as these 3 come roaring on around through the carousel, and right now they seem to be trying to establish some degree of order. As we say hello to Old Man Racing there, who says Road America is one of the most beautiful courses in real life. Indeed, an absolutely beautiful circuit. I'd love to visit it one day, and I'm sure many out there would. And we're also saying that if only we could potentially change up some of the circuits to Formula 1 visits. Indeed, I think Formula 1 at Road America would be absolutely brilliant. But right now, speaking of top formulas, this top formula of Porsche Cup racing delivering still, as Carl McGuinness there making a move versus Christian Carlson and gaining 8 places so far in the opening 2 laps. McGuinness definitely picking up the pieces where others are falling by the wayside. He's been very smart about this, McGuinness, and he does have a habit of doing this. He normally doesn't qualify too well, but what he lacks in qualifying trim, he makes up for in race pace and also just a really great consistency. He's not got the pace, say, of Philip Hammer, but he's definitely got the consistency that we see in the likes of Philip Hammer. And that's a good gauge for McGuinness here as he makes his way over the brow and on towards lap number 3. But Carlson, Corsaro and also Rostek all tucking in behind as we ride on board with Thomas Rostek as he heads in towards turn number 1. Now for the number 14 driver here, currently in his running position, and I think he'll be quite happy about that because of course the aim of the game is to finish where your door number says you should finish, or alternatively finish higher than that to improve your I rating. And if you're wondering how the door numbers are assigned, they're assigned based on the relative I ratings of the drivers. The highest I rated driver, so Philip Hammer, takes door number 1 in this instance, and the lowest I rated driver, so that's the door number 22 of Carl McGuinness, well therefore he'll take the lowest door number in the racing lobby depending on the number of cars out there. But I'm staying focused here on Rostek as he gets a little bit bit closer there to Anthony Corsaro, and will Corsaro going defensive there, knows the writings on the wall for a potential move, but Thomas Rostek not quite able to find a way through. A bit of gravel being kicked up there, run wide for McGuinness. He's been a bit of pressure for Carlson just in front. All these drivers starting to get on each other's nerves a little bit, but that's going to make it a bit feisty as they make their way into the middle section of the lap, and this is when the mistakes become incredibly punishing if you get it wrong. But hopefully there's not going to be two major mistakes, just enough to open up an opportunity, says Thomas Rostek, and we'll try and look around the outside there into the hairpin, go for the cutback. It's a lovely switch back in, but a little bit of power oversteer, and with Corsaro seeing what's coming, he decides to go defensive, so Corsaro there just holding the inside line for the carousel, and as he does so, will Rostek now having to look for the cutback here to launch his way out of turn number 10, and then up towards the kink, and there he goes. In terms of speeds he's carrying here, 130 miles an hour at the exit the corner and into the kink in the toe, where he makes way through that 136 miles an hour. In clear air, he'll be going much faster, but having to back with the throttle where they're due to the dirty air, but heading down towards the Canada corner here in excess of 163 miles an hour onto the brakes, up the inside, and Thomas Rostek, what a move there up the inside of Corsaro. Corsaro being respectful, to be fair, and Mohamed Abdouni meanwhile under pressure from Philip Hammer behind, as Hammer looks up the inside into turn 13, but there's no way through as they head upwards, and meanwhile in the fight for turn number 14, where it's going to be Christian Carlson who finds himself edged wide at the apex, as Carl McGuinness trying to hold on for dear life here in the fight for 11th place. Our top 10 may have gone a little bit quiet, but right now the silence inside the top 10, well, the screaming battling outside the top 10 is definitely making up for it. But heading on towards another lap, well, this is going to be a bit of a race of attrition as well. It's only a 25-minute race given the number of laps we have, as is the Porsche Cup formula, but it's always intriguing, as we do see there Max Enstrom up the inside of Bruno Nascimento to take back a place that he lost earlier on. And looking to Lucas Martinez, he's under pressure there from Paul Joffreux, but coming back to Carl McGuinness, we'll go in defence there versus Christian Carlson, but into turn number 3, that's not where you really want to be, as Antti Corsaro goes up the inside of Thomas Rostek, who tried to find a way around the outside of McGuinness, but a small love tap between the two of them did see in the end Rostek go a little bit wide, and Corsaro being able to pick up the plays. Paul Joffreux, meanwhile, having to go defensive here in towards turn number 6, just up the road, and Lucas Martinez all over the back of him still, as they head up the rise and in towards turn number 7, a very tricky corner to get right, because you're braking on a blind ridge effectively, and when that unsettles the front end of the car, and it means that the risk of locking up the front brakes is ever greater. Remember, these Porsche Cup cars, they are running in Super Cup trim, which means there is no anti-lock braking system, no ABS, and there is no traction control. These are the hardest cars to race technically at the GT3 or equivalent class level. Remember, these are GT3 Cup car machines, so therefore they lose some of the aerodynamics, and also some of the engine restrictions are removed. 510 horsepower from their flat 6-cylinder engines, and absolutely roaring on here, and it really is all about modulating the throttle and the brakes as a driver more than anything else, and knowing how the car behaves when you push it to the limit. Gabriel's just there demonstrating what happens when you push it too far beyond the limit, running wide out the carousel, and through the kink he's got Huang right behind him as they come in towards the Canada corner, but it looks so he's safe at least for a brief moment. But with a brief moment, let's take a look back at your race start, ladies and gentlemen, and in particular some of our opening lap instance, starting of course with what happened to Philip Hammer. Now, as he went green flag racing here, what you're going to see is that Jules Boutz initially he had the better start of the top 3, but in the second stage of launch, Hammer and Olsen both getting a much better run into second gear, and that was the delta. However, Boutz did enough to hold on. But Hammer under braking it, watch the rear left tyre from the car's perspective, to the right of your screen, and a tap there in fact. I think there was a small tap between himself and Tobias Olsen. I'm not quite sure how that's happened, but if that was a tap, well, that escorted Philip Hammer to the grass and sent the car out wide. Now with that, he went on a recovery drive after that, and well from him, and then comes to what happened to Liam Kulinski on the open lap, and this was the 2x2 battle between our 4 drivers. Kulinski there outbraking himself massively for the Maxim Racing team, and in the end going very deep, and as he returns to the racing, where he's going to go to the gravel, find his way back on, and in the end gets picked up there with Zach Hyatt, who had a bit of a dismal moment of his own. Zach Hyatt, meanwhile, in terms of what happened to him, from his perspective, as he broke his way down, this was what happened at the time for the number 20 driver. Onto the brakes he went, looking up the inside there of Rostek, went too hard on the brakes. Oh no, that's a big hit there, and I think that was contact with Nicholas Stanev, who he hit in the end, and then subsequently he tries to get up to speed, and then suddenly finds out there is the man of what was the instant earlier on, and it all went wrong between the two of them. And that was another Liam Kulinski, of course, who came into the side of him. We also had this happen for Leandro Lazendorf, only a little bit later as he made his way on around, and as he did so, coming in towards the carousel. Well, what went exactly wrong with the Brazilian driver? Oh, could this be a bit of oversteer there crept in, and then the car decided to understeer out wide as he tried to reset it back to normal. But from that, we also had this happen to the same man on lap number 3, and well, this was battling at the time with Alonso, and Alonso in the end side by side with him, elbows out between the two. Oh no, that's gone very, very wrong, and in the end, we're both coming together. Not the way they wanted it to go at all, and that is the drama that we've had over the course of the opening 3 laps. We haven't quite caught every incident, we've caught some of the big ones there, and let's come back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, because there's still plenty more action to come. Speaking of which, we come back to the fight here for 11th place. Hammers is clear of McGuinness, Corsaro, and also Abduni now, and is continues to move onwards. He's up into 11th, but we've been given a lot of television time to the battle outside the top 10, so we're now going to look to the very front of the field as Jules Bouts continues to try and abscond off into the distance. But as he makes his way over the crest and through, well, right now looks to be in control of this race, at least for a brief moment, albeit it is 8 tenths between himself and Tobias Olsen. These two drivers exchanging lap times as if it's going out of style, 2 tenths of the delta between them in the favour of our race leader that time around. Personal best, meanwhile, being set there by Gabriel Zisk, who's in 4th place, and he's trying to catch up to Corey Lazarus behind. And there you can see Lazarus in the rear of the picture. Now he takes the centre of the camera. He's running in 3rd place here and running a very solid effort with that. And we'll keep in mind that for Corey Lazarus, so far this season, he has picked up several podiums over the course of these top split broadcasts, and his previous podium coming none other than at Laguna Seca last time out, and he also picked up a podium in week number 8 at Watkins Glen. So therefore, everything seems to be clicking together for Corey Lazarus at the moment. Paul Jaffro, meanwhile, trying to chase down a top 5 finish here, chasing after Kui Cheng Huang, I should say, as the Chinese driver continues to try and hold on and tucks into the toe of Zisk. But here we can see Jaffro getting a little bit closer, and well, how close is he from a driver's perspective? Well, here's the dashboard to show you how close he can get, and well, we ride aboard with the number 3 for a brief while as they come through turn number 8 and down towards 9 and 10 very shortly. Onto the brakes then for the hairpin, and well, as we do see our number 3 driver here just tucking in firmly. Remember, he started 11th, so he's made up a good number of places, but he wants to go a bit further. Well, here he takes a very tight entry line initially, V-shape approach here. I wonder whether he's going to go for the slingshot here, but he's got to time this very well, because otherwise he loses time. But the carousel, you want a U-shape approach through there. You don't want to V-shape cut it too hard, because otherwise you lose a lot of momentum through the corner. But Jaffro just about nailing it and using the slipstream off of the back of Huang's car in order to be able to stay right in the hunt. There's different lines there, but it's under different conditions through the carousel, and it really depends on whether you're battling or in clear air as he heads onto the brakes here. All these drivers right now just staying very close together, and you can see this just in front, and we're not really seeing any differences here in terms of straight line speeds of the different machines. It seems though everybody in the draft of each other is neutralizing the effect of the toe, and that's important to know, because what it tells everyone is they're running about the same amount of rear wing on the car, and with the very similar setup of the car, it means that this is going to be a battle of consistency and skill over a lap, rather than have you got the setup absolutely spot on. Nobody here seems to be charging away on the straight, already blasting the way through the corners. But Jaffro here gets a little bit closer and closer, pulls the inside then. He's got an opportunity to try and make the move for 5th place. Can he get it done? Well, he goes all in there. Huang goes a little bit deep. Lucas Martinez, meanwhile, on the inside there, and the Red Bull machine is going to try and make it 2 places lost at the price of 1 for the Chinese driver as they come onto the anchors. And well, Martinez out the inside, and well, credit where it's due to Kui Cheng Huang. He could have potentially fought that a lot harder, but I think he's aware of the bigger picture, which is he doesn't need to fight right now. But we can see there Martinez now going back on the defensive, coming down under the cheese board and in towards turn number 6. It's going to be a drag race here. Martinez doesn't have the toe off the back of Jaffro. Huang does. And meanwhile behind him, Elias Finale, while the last ice-powered machines still hanging in there. Well, he's watching this battle with anticipation of how he can seize an opportunity. When Martinez there defending on the inside into turn number 6, holds the place as Huang has to hold off Elias Finale, as they all neutralise their battling, and all the places are settled there. So Martinez up to 6th and Jaffro up to 5th place. Huang meanwhile down from 5th to 7th as Elias Finale now gets a little bit closer, getting a bit firm here as he gets all over the back of his rival and thinks, okay, let's make it even worse for him. Let's make it 3 places lost on a single lap for the man in front. But Finale's going to have to try and find a way to work this a little bit more, because he's not quite close enough here to look for a move. And well, through the carousel, unless your rival in front makes an absolute ham sandwich of the corner, well, right now there is no real way through as he makes his way out to turn 9 and 10. Up towards the kink they go, and as they do, well, this corner so challenging to get right and clear air, even more so when you're in dirty air, because suddenly you have understeer, completely washes the aero balance of the car in a different direction. And these Porsche Cup cars as well have very interesting aero balance in the fact that the fuel tank of the car is located in the front rather than the rear compared to most racing machines. And what that does mean is as the fuel comes out the car, the weight balance of the car suddenly becomes much lighter at the front compared to the rear. So suddenly the aerodynamics of the car will shift very heavily as well, depending on whether you're pitching under braking or driving on the straight and then going into a braking zone subsequently. And it means you've got to react to the body language of the car all the way through. But all of our top 10 drivers have done a fantastic job of that so far as they make the way now into the final quarter of the race. But as they charge their way onwards, we look a bit further back to Ibai Alonso. Well, he's definitely been in the wars, and with it in front of him is John Bailiff there, and Bailiff continues to push on. Both of these drivers, they have gained 5 places, but very different stories to their races, both sporting some wounds on their machines, no doubt about it, but things definitely seem to have calmed down a little bit between them over the last few laps. We will see what happens between them as they make the way on down the start-finish straight. And whilst all this has been happening, of course, we have had some changes further afoot because Carl McGuinness, who has fallen to 12th behind Philip Hammer, the one thing he has not fallen to is the pursuit of Anthony Corsaro. As Corsaro there in the rather wonderful livery to push 412 machine, as I read off the side of the car. Well, right now the number 12 driver here close, but not quite close enough to think about a move versus McGuinness, but he has cleared Abdulni quite comfortably by 2.3 seconds. And there's your 14th place runner as he heads on down towards turn number 6. A very colourful livery there, and indeed the lovely light blue shade on the machine. But as the Dyneco machine, it comes on through, and in fact I think that might be a reference there to the movie Cars. I want to say that that is the King car essentially liveried onto the machine, although I might be incorrect about that. I'm sure somebody will correct me there. I think I might have got it slightly wrong, but either way right now, when the number 19 driver makes way on through there, very stylish livery either way, and it's not quite a Lightning McQueen in terms of pace right now, but he's going to keep on motivating himself either way, which is what we love to see. But looking back to Bruno Nascimento, he's got Philip Hammer now close, and Hammer, well, of course, he's trying to recover his way into this race, is Hammer, as he gets a little bit closer and closer as time goes on over the distance. And well, Hammer at this point, given the fact that Hammer is the best part of 13 seconds off of our race leader, I think it's going to be very hard for him to get back on the podium, but he'll get into the top 10 if he can. As Nascimento there, I think now deciding just to let the place go as they go under braking in towards Canada Corner. As much as he'd love to fight it, I think he recognises the fact he was battling with the number 1 driver in the split, and well, if this was the final couple of laps, he definitely would like to go defensive driving. However, right now, what he can use Hammer as is a bit of a pace car. He can use Hammer to see where Hammer might be gaining some lap time in certain corners. He might be able to revise his lines or see that he needs to brake a little bit deeper. If he dares, of course, that's a confidence challenge there. And also, Hammer will naturally pull him forward on the straight, and eventually he will catch up to the P9 driver. That's Max Armstrong, who's running in 9th place. And the number 16 driver will now look at his rear view mirrors, he'll look at his relative, and understand that suddenly he has got one of the leading drivers of this split who's coming up rather rapidly behind him. And the pace of Philip Hammer, 2:08. Very low 2:08.0s, in fact. And well, Engstrom meanwhile mid 2:08. So Hammer on that last lap just took 6 tenths out of Engstrom, and if this carries on by the end of this lap, we will see Hammer firmly in the draft of Engstrom and looking for an opportunity on lap number 10. But as they continue to push each other on, well, we said about McGuinness breaking away from Corsaro. If anything, it's gone the other way, and it looks as though Carl McGuinness has fallen backwards into the clutches of the number 12 driver, and the number 22 that was doing very well to run away with things earlier on in the race. All right, now it does seem as though Corsaro has found his pace, and he's going to look for a move around the outside here down to turn number 6. But how is he going to go about it? Will it be a cutback, or will it be all the way around the outside? Well, it's a cutback there, and McGuinness falls to the old ploy, but goes defensive immediately up the hill there, sees what his rival's trying to do, and Corsaro's now going to try and go around the outside of turn number 7. You don't do that normally. Going around the outside of turn number 7, that's the equivalent of turning 50% more of a corner. Look, Corsaro almost made it work there. McGuinness right now really rattled by this, but Corsaro is not pulling the punches as they come down in towards turn number 8. He's looking everywhere around the circuit and essentially saying to the driver in front, look, I'm going to pass you wherever I want to. You've got to be ready for it. And Corsaro really using all the asphalt here to his advantage. McGuinness runs out a bit wide from the carousel, but he will bring it back together, and there's not really going to be an opportunity for Corsaro here to try and look for a move in towards the kink, just because of the fact it really is follow the leader unless you're side by side through the carousel. But you can see they're both drivers making their way through then, and down the backstretch they go. And there's point Corsaro 2 tenths and closing fast However, what can he do here as he looks towards the braking zone? Well, McGuinness puts it in the middle of the road. Corsaro's going to try and go around the outside. McGuinness drags the car through the apex there. He now knows that he can't afford to let the car roll deep because Corsaro is preying on that and looking for the cutback. And this is where these two now will take a lot more time out of each other, because what McGuinness is doing for the uninitiated, he's essentially what we call parking the car in apex, which is allowed in the fact what he does, he essentially slows the car down, makes the apex, but then drags it out the corner so slowly that Corsaro, who might look for the cutback, suddenly has to essentially lift off the throttle and alternatively brake again and straighten the steering wheel to make sure he doesn't lose control. And well, as they make their way onwards further up the road, that is a change of position for fourth place. That's Paul Joffro ahead of Gabriel Zusk. But meanwhile, we must come back to Corsaro versus McGuinness as they go too wide in towards turn one. McGuinness is still under pressure from Corsaro, and we'll come back to how Joffro got himself ahead of Gabriel Zusk shortly. But Corsaro going around the outside there of the number 22, looks to switch it back, but McGuinness just constantly there, dragging the car out of the apexes time and time again. But now there is a long straight here, and I don't think Anthony Corsaro is going to hold back anymore. McGuinness has got to go defensive all the way down, but who is going to be the boulder on the brakes here? Well, it's the racing line for Corsaro. When McGuinness gets the elbows out there, and we'll two-way they're coming in, and the home hero Corsaro right now racing on home soil. Contact between the two. It's a slight slide from McGuinness on the rear end. That's going to cause Corsaro to be elbowed wide, and he's going to have to wait again at turn number 7. This is definitely getting tighter and tighter between these two drivers as they come down in towards turn number 9 shortly. But before that, they've got turn 7 and 8, and Corsaro has to back off for a brief moment. But as he takes a bit of a breather, we take a look back at exactly how we have seen two places change. And firstly, there was the change of position for Paul Joffro versus Gabriel Zusk. And I think, in fact, Gabriel Zusk has lost 2 places, not just 1, because Zusk had a poor run coming out of turn 1, went a bit wide out of the corner, and Joffro immediately capitalised in here as they made their way in towards turn number 3, and number 2 driver X'd in the corner. Well, as he did so, what then went subsequently wrong for him? Well, it looks like nothing went wrong initially, but we then had this for Lucas Martinez only moments later. This was down in towards turn number 6, so it was Joffro under attack from Zusk, and was just backed off there, decided to tuck it in, and Martinez just went absolutely all in here. Door was wide open, and Gabriel just never saw that coming, and in the end he did, only when they got to the end of the braking point. And well, I think at that point he decided, right, the door's been left wide open, I might as well just let the man go, albeit Martinez almost lost it there coming out of turn number 7 to celebrate his move, but in the end it finally sealed the deal. And this happened for Philip Hammer only moments later at turn number 6. Hammer looking up the inside then of Max Enstrom. I think Max here deciding, you know what, it's not worth fighting it because I've got a bigger problem behind me, and that's Bruno Nascimento, who's only a couple of attempts behind now as we come back to your live racing. So plenty of fights there as we make our way onto our penultimate lap of racing here at Road America. Indeed, these 12 laps are absolutely flying by, but that's always the spectacle of the Porsche Cup Series. And as we do see Corsaro here staying close behind McGuinness, this fight for 12th place right now really taking a whole story of its own over this race distance. And in terms of battles, there's not too much happening between our top 3. The top 3 is separated by 1 to 2 seconds between each machine, and the rest of the top 5 right now is looking quite close in the battle for 4th. We are keeping an eagle eye on it, but we can see McGuinness here having to go defensive again, and Corsaro this time trying for the 2nd time in a row of going around the outside. However, last time he tried it was contact between the two of them. This time, no power oversteer from McGuinness, and Corsaro now going up the rides under the Corvette bridge. He's going to go ahead on the nose in towards turn 7. Can Corsaro get this done? Oh, would this be just about keeps it on the road there, but the rear of the car slid loose on him by touching the grass, and Corsaro, who had it 99.9% done, he couldn't quite find the final 0.1% of the move, and Cole McGuinness just holds on versus Corsaro there on this penultimate lap. But what a try there from the American driver. He absolutely waited for it. It didn't quite work out. But coming back to the front of the field then as we wait to see where Corsaro can go for it again on the final lap. Well, here is the battle for 4th place. It's Joffro, Martinez, Zisk, Huang, and also Finoli. They're all separated in totality. 5 drivers separated by 2.5 seconds as they all play the game and follow the leader behind Joffro. But each driver here absolutely equal on pace and all thinking right now about the opportunity to try and make some magic happen. But who is going to be the one who makes it happen in reality? That is the big question mark that we need an answer to. But thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, our race leader takes us on to the final lap. Jules Bounce there sets the fastest lap of the race, a 2:07.724, and well, that is a lightning quick lap, it must be said, in the fact that that is a lap that's proven to be a 10.5 faster than what anybody else has been able to do here at Road America today. Bounce is absolutely running off into the distance as Tobias Olsen and Corey Lazar stay stationed in 2nd and third. We're not really seeing the battle that we saw at Laguna Seca between them come to the 4A today, but it may be the situation whereby they are very even on lap time, and it's all come down to the race start and the qualifying positions, where Lazarus in the end didn't quite have the start compared to Olsen, and that's what's created the 1.5 second delta that's not really been closable. However, as we look back to Quisheng Huang, who continues to chase after Gabriel Zusk, well, Zusk has proven quite vulnerable in these late laps. He has lost a couple of places, and Huang trying to find a way to get a little bit closer here, but it's still 4 attempts. They exit the way out to turn number 6 in towards 7. Further back behind them, we do have a battle for 14th place here on the straightaway coming down towards turn number 6, and that is going to be Abdouni going defensive there versus Christian Carlson, who's on the left of your pitch on the outside. Carlson trying to look all the way around the houses. Can he do so? No, he goes to the cutback in the end, but Abdouni absolutely nails the run out the corner, and Carlson, as much he'd love to go up the inside, it's too short of a run into turn 7 for him to risk it, particularly when it's that blind apex braking zone. So therefore he has to back off for now and stay at station. But coming back to Gabriel Zusk in 6th place, as the sun shines on him right now, we'll be hoping there's no more places to be lost here, as he looks fiercely forward, much like the rear wing says, but he's got to worry about backwards behind, because there's Wang, and Finoli is 8 tenths behind, a little bit more, but as they come down towards Canada corner, Wolzisk immediately here thinks about going defensive, but in the end holds his racing line, feels safe. For the time being, we can see Huang getting closer and closer to every braking zone here by 100th or 2, but they'll all gradually add up. But we haven't got long before we do get to our checker flag, and as we do, ladies and gentlemen, well, we come back to the man who put it on pole by an absolutely phenomenal margin of 1.7 tenths, and the Jules Bounce today on his debut in the Top Split Broadcast Series. He takes victory here at Road America in incredible fashion by 2.2 seconds in the end over Tobias Olsen and Corey Lazarus. Complete your top 3. Paul Jeffro just missed out on the podium, but holds on to 4th ahead of Lucas Martinez, where Gabriel Zisk finishes 6th, holding off the charge of Quisheng Huang, and then Elias Finoli takes 8th place, and then we have a further 7.5 seconds where we get to 9th place finisher Philip Hammer, who in the end recovered well to 9th ahead of Max Enstrom, who completed your top 10. Bruno Nascimento took 11th place. He made his way past us down the camera. Carl McGuinness held off Anthony Corsaro for 12th, and Corsaro in the end taking 13th ahead of Mohamed Abdouni, with Christian Carlson 15th there. That's your top 15. We then did have John Bailiff in a bit of a quiet into his race, take 16th ahead of Ibai Alonso, who started from the very back of the field. Well done to him on 17th place, with Leandro Lazendorf there, roaring his way on past our cameraman and taking 18th place. And then the man who had a dismal start to the race, but credit where it's due, and give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, like all of our drivers, because he stayed in it to win it all the way to the end. Zach Hurt in the end taking 19th place, last our finishers, as we did have 3 retirees. But as our drivers all go around on their cool-down laps or immediately towed to the pits, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, an incredible conclusion to week number 10 of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT in the 2025 Season 3 campaign, brought to you on iRacing. And as we've seen from our strength of field race today, Jules Bounce in the end taking victory, the Belgian driver, by 2.2 seconds over Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing's Tobias Olsen. And in the end, Olsen could not quite touch the impressive pace of the number 17 driver, and Jules Bounce really just running off into the distance with this one, little by little. However, it should be pointed out, whereas we've normally had a leader who's put it on pole and then disappeared off up the road, Jules Bounce did not quite disappear, and he was always within distant reach of the rest of the top 3, but Bounce just finding a little bit more time, particularly with that fastest lap of the race on the penultimate lap at 2:07.72. We did see Tobias Olsen take 2nd place ahead of Corey Lazarus. Their rivalry continues, with Lazarus once again just falling behind, and then in 4th place, missing out on the podium, but holding on to a valiant 4th place, Paul Jeffro, the Frenchman there on his debut, a brilliant effort ahead of the Argentine from start with MC, Lucas Martinez. Outside the top 5, Gabriel Zisk was a further 1.2 seconds behind, holding on to the run for 4th place for so long, but in the end, falling foul with a small mistake cost him dear and cost him 2 places. But still, a good effort from the Slovakian driver ahead of Quisheng Huang, who took 7th place there, and the Chinese driver doing well to keep the pressure on Zusk, but not enough to take the 6th place. Elias Finoli took 8th there for Ice Cold Racing, ahead of Pole Promotion Esports' Philip Hammer, and Max Enstrom there for Ice Cold Racing, rounding off your top 10. And credit to Hammer for the spin in the early stage of the race. He didn't give up, he came back at it, Understandably, I think there'll be a little bit of frustration for the German driver. But behind the German and the two Swedes, it was then the Brazilian of Bruno Nascimento who held on to 11th, best of the rest in the field, and by a comfortable 9-second margin over Carl McGuinness. But credit where it's due to the British driver, a brilliant battle between him and his rival across the Atlantic of Antti Corsaro, with the home hero today doing well to finish 13th and enjoying a brilliant bunch of battles. In moving 5 places up the running order, I think he'll be pleased with that. Mohamed Abdouni finished in 14th, the Brazilian driver there in the number 19, making some steady progress, a second ahead of Christian Carlson at the line, with the Norwegian driver there having a bit of a frustrating day in the office ahead of John Bailiff, with the Win It or Bin It Racing taking 16th, I should say, albeit some contact early on cost him a lot of bodywork and with some pace. And then we did see Ibai Alonso, Leandro Lazendorf and Zach Haight completing your 19 finishers. In 20th, 4 laps down, but classified as Fischer, it will be Thomas Rostek. And then we did, of course, have the additional retirees of none other than Nicholas Stanev and Liam Kulinski. So 22 starters, 19 finishers, of which all of them on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes our running today for the Strength of Field race in the 2025 Season 3 Week 10 event of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And what a round of racing it has been here. But as quickly as it started, it comes to end here at Road America. And, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, just before we tee up for next time, let's hear a word about our title sponsor for the iRacing Porsche Cup. That's CONSPIT, and hear a little bit more about what they're all about. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we head then from America in a week's time to Portugal for the Autodromo International Algarve, also known as the Portimao circuit. And we put behind us 3 rounds of racing in the US of A to make our way to a European circuit, which is an absolute technical behemoth. With sweeping chicanes, sweeping curves, extended straights and hairpins, the Algarve circuit is going to definitely prove to be one of the hardest technical challenges that our drivers will see all season long. But who exactly will come away feeling strong and make the way into week 12 on a high? Well, for all that and more, come join us once again in the 19:45 GMT or UTC slot on Wednesday the 27th of August 2025 as we continue to see our drivers do battle in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. But until then, that's all we've got time for. And well, I've been your host, Paul TX141 Walsh. This has been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and much like our drivers, as always, remember, most importantly, to stay on track. Good night.